Huh?
You sick of us yet?
Heck no, heck no. You guys are outstanding. I mean, you guys haven't been other places. It's crazy sometimes.
Richard, when did you know that you would not only go but be starting and going every play on Sunday?
Well, it got teared off. You know, I think I knew I was going probably, I don't know, Friday, Saturday that I'd be dressing. I think sometime at, Friday, about the same time they said there's a potential that you could be starting. And then they told me I would be starting probably Saturday night. And then Sunday in the middle of the game, realized there wasn't going to be a rotation once CD went out. So, yeah, the plan was to kind of play as long as you could and then get a sub and take a break and kind of rotate back in. And then once that happened, the plan kind of got thrown out the window and you got to soldier through.
98% of the snaps. I mean, was there any point in time where you're like, man, am I going to have the stamina to keep doing this?
Yeah, I mean, once they told me I was going to play the whole game, then I start getting into energy conservation mode throughout the game, and you hate to say you save some for the swim back, but it was like you don't have a choice at that point because I don't know exactly what I have for the for the rest of the game. So that, I had to keep a governor on myself at times to be able to, and even still then in the fourth quarter, my legs were like jello. But, you just got to soldier through and do what you can to help your team.
Did you know, first two plays they throw right to you. You probably knew they might, but was that like the welcome back moment?
No, because those were the plays that were like there were the open spots in the zone. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like I was sitting there like, oh man, they're targeting me on the first plays. It was just like, oh, he made the right reads on the right plays. So I didn't even think about it, honestly. It was just make the tackles, get off the field. They had a short field, so we were guarding to make sure they didn't move the ball further.
What's it been like trying to learn this playbook at warp speed? I mean, you're a really bright guy, but it's like learning a new language, right?
It 100% is, and TB likes to run a lot of. He has a lot of variety in his packages and what he likes out of his corners and corners over and the movement and the disguises and things like that. So it did take a second. It took a lot of hours of just going back and forth and a lot of questions that may have been dumb for other guys to ask, but I didn't know. And then even throughout the process of the week, there'd be checks, because it's just human nature to just assume, we're in the season. It's not like you're doing installs anymore. So they'd be like, oh yeah, we just made this check, this check, this check. And I'd be like, hey, what does that mean exactly? Nobody? All right, so I got him? All right, perfect. Good, sorry. And so it was just a lot of extra time, shout out to Rock, Kevin Ross, the DB coach, the corners coach. He did a great job taking his time and explaining things. Shout out to the safeties, Twan and Jay White and Mike. They made sure that they signaled throughout the game. They communicated. The linebackers, Devin and Levante, they did a great job of communicating. So it was comfortable out there. It wasn't like, hey, you're like panicked and I felt like I could look around, meet eyes with somebody, and they'd be like, hey, we're in this. And we get deal with it.
Last week is gone now. This week you can't play 4 spots. Well, what can you do to help get the people who are healthy ready to play and contribute even perhaps more this week than you did last week?
Well, it's exciting, and they have. Okay, that's new for me.
It's really loud, and even for those of us that have been here for a really long time, it still makes you jump.
Okay, that's good heads up.
Be ready for it.
That's good heads up. The coaches, and like I said, TB runs a great scheme. He has a great feel for those things. The safeties here are incredible. Safety play. Jay White and Antoine and Mike, they play high level football. Jay White, some of the plays he made last week were really all pro plays. He went in the backfield, blowing up run plays, taking on 3 blockers, et cetera, and still making a play. So I think they'll be fine. I think PD is a veteran and has played a lot of football, and I think he'll be fine. We'll communicate, we'll go over the indicators, the keys, and find spots where we can find success with this offense. They're doing things a little different with Brissett under center than they were with Tua. They were running a little bit more RPO, and they still try to do some of the RPO stuff with Brissett, but not as much. So it's really about just being detailed and understanding your indicators and trusting them.
I'm curious how much. Oh, I'm sorry. You go ahead. Yeah, but your turn.
Appreciate it.
I'm sorry.
How tough is that balance from playing every single snap, getting into game shape, and at the same time, you're still learning this defense. It's all wrapped into one, and you've been here for, what, a week now?
Right. It's tough, but it's no excuses. Like the coaches were giving me credit. In the meetings, they're like, man, it's a tough spot to be in, and we understand, but to me, you got a standard that you're used to playing at, and I didn't play up to my standard, and so regardless of circumstances, I was frustrated. When I watched the tape, there were some plays where I could physically see myself, I'm making the right movements, I'm making the right steps, I'm putting myself in the best position, my legs just weren't there, and I can understand that, but there were some times where I just didn't trust my eyes, and, my game speed, my body and brain weren't connected like they usually are, and for me to trigger in the way I'm supposed to. So it's tough because when you played in a scheme your whole career, like I have, and like the back of your head, and so it's not, when you get plays called, you don't even think about the play. It's not like, hey, I got to think about my job on this play, or what I do, or do I travel with motion. It's like, my job, let me figure out the play, and let me break on this, I know this is coming, I know this guy's going to be here. And so there was a little bit of hesitation there because there were times I had to think about, hey, do I run over, do I have this, am I blitzing on this play, do I check out of it, I need to communicate this here. And it'll be a lot faster and a lot better, a lot more crisp this week, with a full week of practice.
You talked about all the extra work that you were doing away from the facility, trying to just get up to speed. And how much studying were you putting in, trying to learn this playbook at warp speed? Like, I don't know if you've got hours or how you would.
Yeah, I don't really count it by the hours, but, the whole time me and my wife are on the phone and talking on FaceTime, I'm watching film, and she's trying to, explain the kids' day, and the kids trying to talk, so you're trying to balance that. But, it was probably, the time we were away from here, so we get out of here at 5 or 6, so I'd probably 3-4 hours a day, and just trying to understand the scheme, and then also trying to study New England and what they like to do. So it's a lot, but, that's what you got to do in this game, be pro.
Where, I know joining a team last minute, probably not, but just where a team has been so ravaged by injuries in their secondary or maybe a different, defensive position group, but one like this where you're literally down three starters.
Yeah, San Francisco. San Francisco, it was like that every year I was there, pretty much, where we lost at least, 2-3 guys. My first year there, we lost 3 guys in a game. One time. So I can't say I have never been in this position, but that's the cool thing about the pros, is everybody's capable. Everybody's capable of getting the job done. And I think that's where sometimes fans get kind of out of place when they're like, man, the season's lost because this guy is injured and this guy must suck because he's not starting. And it's like, nobody sucks in this league. There are guys who haven't had an opportunity. There are guys who may have not taken advantage, may have not been in the right scheme or something. But there isn't a huge talent difference every time with position. Now, sometimes you got superstar Hall of Fame guys, and then you got guys behind them that aren't superstar Hall of Fame guys, but everybody in the National Football League is a pro, and you should expect pro-level play out of them, and that's what I expect out of our guys. There's a lot of talent.
What was key for you guys?
Sorry. In addition to all that adjusting you had to do, was your body still on West Coast time? Was that?
right. That part too. Yeah. Yeah, it was. Thank goodness it was a late game though. It wasn't a 10 a.m. West Coast start, 1 o'clock game like it is this week. And by this week I'll be adjusted. So that helped. Letting it be a super late game, which let me adjust and let me be as ready as I could possibly be. But yeah, it was a lot of flight time. I probably spent more time in the air flying than I did practicing. So that was something.
When you were in Seattle, you played behind a pretty good front seven. Have you been here long enough to appreciate and compare this front seven with what you have there?
No, I haven't. But I will say this: they're outstanding. I'll say from what I've seen, they've been fantastic and very dynamic and very versatile. You can't tell the position everybody's playing at. You get Vita at DN sometimes. You get Tryon at looks like safety at times. JPP hasn't been back out there since I've been here, but it's going to be really, really tough to block once everybody's back. Devin is freaking relentless. He's everywhere. So I've never played in a scheme that's this diverse in my career. So it's been cool to watch.
In your experience with San Francisco, what did you kind of learn from that situation with all those guys being injured, or what was key for you guys to find success despite having to refill those spots? And
you're only as strong as your weakest link. You know, at the end of the day, you're only as strong as your weakest link, so you have to make sure everybody's prepared. You have to treat everybody as important. You don't sit there and prioritize guys on your team. Everybody's important. So you don't sit there and treat the practice squad guy who you think you're not going to need ever like, hey, man, you're trash. We don't worry about you. You treat him just as valuable as you do the starters. You get him the same information. You give him the same indicators. You talk to him the same way. You encourage him the same way when he's taking practice squad reps as you would when your starters are out there and they're making plays. You encourage them the same ways. You coach them the same ways. So, and I think that's what they did well there, and that's what they do well here is that, you know, as a teammate, you don't sit there and say, hey, these practice squad guys, you don't worry about them. When they're going, you just watch, you just have conversations and drink water. No, you encourage them. You tell them what you saw. Hey, on this play, hey, maybe check your feet on this, or maybe you need to read number 2 a little differently on this play. And so when you stay in tune like that, then you don't have people that feel like they're out of connection with the team.